Hello everyone, welcome to the Ranting Shop. It's me, Melissa. Today we're going to be discussing Love and Marriage Huntsville Season 3, Episode 14. Okay, so we're going to start with Tisha. So Tisha had the therapy session with Dr. Francis, and in this particular session, we got to know a lot more about the dynamic of husband and wife in Marceau's and Tisha's relationship. Now, we've always known that Marceau is a type of man that wants a traditional marriage. He wants the wife that will stay at home, look after the kids, and he wants to just be the one that provides. He does not give me the feeling that he wants to even be involved in the raising of his children. It just appears like he wants to be that old school parent where the father, the children barely know the dad. They know that's their dad, but they barely know him. To a point where if he dies, they don't even feel that much sorrow because they didn't even know him, and I always bring this up with Marceau because I feel like that's what's gonna happen to him if he does not change his perspective on being a dad. And it doesn't seem like he wants to change his perspective. He's a very stubborn person. But I digress. So back to Tisha. So Tisha is with Dr. Francis. They hit on a very important topic. Prior to her meeting Marceau, she was quite independent, and of course she had to be pay her bills by herself, do what she needed to do by herself. That was all Tisha. However, when she got in a relationship with Marceau, she quickly got pregnant, ended up getting married, almost like a shotgun marriage, and immediately after she had to resign she had to put herself in a drawer somewhere and become Marceau's wife. And that was the issue, because her putting herself away and becoming a wife and a mother left very little room for Tisha to be Tisha. And she explained that her husband wanted her to be more dependent on him. So whatever made Tisha and made her strong and confident and independent, she had to change that to become what Marceau wanted in a wife, which is a woman that he wants to be fully dependent on him. And Dr. Francis touched on something that was very important. Actually, it made a lot of sense. He mentioned that as opposed to that the need for people to depend on him being something of an ego boost, it was more so him wanting or fearing that Tisha might leave him. And that fear caused him to make her vulnerable in a sense, whether it be financially vulnerable, whether it be somewhat vulnerable, so that he had a bit of control as far as she was concerned. So that really made a lot of sense and was quite profound as Marceau was concerned. But the other thing I have to say is, yes, he might be fearful of his wife leaving, but at the end of the day, he's not doing anything to really keep her in the marriage. As we saw in previous episodes, he's left her out of a lot of things that's been going on with him, namely his depression. Like, how could you not tell your wife about something that's affecting you? If you're supposed to tell anyone, that is supposed to be the person you tell, not tell the guys. The guys are not in your marriage. Your wife is. And for her to have been left out of such a very important conversation had me looking at him sideways, because it's like, I feel as if he does not respect Tisha. I feel like he does not value her opinion on things, and that is probably why he felt like, oh, let me tell the guys instead of my own wife. So as much as Dr. Francis is saying that he's fearful of her leaving, he's not even making, if you know that what you're doing is as a result of fear, maybe he doesn't know. And that is why it's a little bit contradictory. Maybe it's just an assessment from Dr. Francis's perspective, but not something that Marceau has technically figured out himself. And so with that, it's like you don't want her to leave you, but you're doing things to isolate her within your marriage. That doesn't make sense to me. Now, after the discussion with Dr. Francis, she meets up with her husband and she discusses the destiny race. Now, the premise of the destiny race makes a lot of sense to me. It's actually very smart. The destiny race is where people sign up under their organization. They have a non-profit called Marceau and Tisha Foundation, which is supposed to help entrepreneurs and so on and so forth. So they're doing this race, and what people or participants are supposed to do is write their dreams and their goals on some paper and run like you're running towards your goal. And I feel like that makes a lot of sense, and I feel like it's gonna just boost people's morale. And if people went off of their goals to get back on track, I think it's a wonderful initiative. But after discussing the destiny race, she spoke about Kimmy not being one to respond to her I think she proposed, she wanted some type of donation or something, so she did a group chat and only 2 people responded, and she mentioned Kimmy not responding, but they didn't make a big deal of that. It then came down to the discussion with Dr. Francis, and my problem with her bringing that up to her husband is that Marceau was trying to define who Tisha was or is to Tisha. You can't do that. You cannot define her for her. Only she can define who she is to you. She has been telling you that she has lost who she is. The essence of who Tisha is has been lost in being a wife and being a mother. And for some reason, Marceau just refuses to validate this woman in her feelings of just not feeling herself. It's almost like he doesn't care. And I said it's that pompous attitude, And then he said another thing. People go to these therapists and the therapists don't know the goal, and then they always leave the therapy session more confused. And Tisha was like, who said I was confused? Tisha never mentioned being confused. Now, for you to say that she's confused or allege, or I shouldn't say allege, for you to assume that the therapy session confused her, just proves how little you think of her. It's almost like her feelings to you are not valid. It's almost like her thoughts and feelings are not valid to you, so you throw them to the side. It's almost like you want to be the one to dictate this woman's thoughts and feelings. So because you feel she's confused. Because you think that she is A, B, C, and D, that means she's A, B, C, and D. Allow this woman to define herself to you. You don't get to define who she is. You didn't grow up with her. And that kind of annoyed me. And then they go on the topic of the kids and the outside children. And those claims have made Tisha very self-conscious about her relationship. Because as much as she says she trusts Marceau, she doesn't trust him. Why? Because he doesn't make her feel like he's trustworthy. He doesn't make her feel confident in him. And he was trying to throw it back on her lack of confidence. But I believe that her lack of confidence stems from her lack of confidence in you. She doesn't feel confident in you. Because you've not allowed her to feel, these people are just talking crazy. You've not made her feel like that. So as much as she says it to you, she does not feel that way. And he talked about, if he can hide a baby that well, then he should be given a prize. And I must admit, he should be given a prize, because I've not heard any or seen any legitimate evidence about Marceau having an outside kid. Everything has been speculation. As much as we strongly believe that he has cheated, there's no proof. There is absolutely no proof. Although Ariane was saying that it was the hairdresser came on a platform and with Marceau and Tisha and said that it was a lie. So there has not been proof. So now we're going into another issue. We're going to the issue with Tisha and Kimmy. So they're at the baseball lounge area, and Tisha and them come back from doing their business with the Destiny race. And Kimmy has a problem with Tisha putting her in a group chat. Because prior to, I guess, their problems, she was never put in any group chat situation. She would probably be contacted directly. So she feels a certain way about that. And Tisha is acting like she's oblivious to it. I understand where Kimmy is coming from, in that the only reason why you included me in this group chat is because you have a problem with me. And that is truly what I'm seeing the issue is. There is a problem that you have with Kimmy that you refuse to address with her. And because you refuse to address the issue with her, you're coming across as extremely passive-aggressive right now, Tisha. Just say you have an issue with her. Because the whole point of what Kimmy was trying to say is, yes, seemingly there's no issue with a group chat. The only problem is we know our relationship. And I know that you did that because you have an issue with me. That's like you telling a friend, oh, tell A that we have a party, as opposed to telling A directly. It's because you don't feel comfortable with her for whatever reason. So they go into issues of Kimmy's planning things and not inviting Tisha. Kimmy is acting like she's oblivious. However, she's saying she's busting her brain. So my thing is, if you haven't done anything shady, then you shouldn't be busting your brain, because as far as you're concerned, what you did was not shady and it wasn't disrespectful to Tisha. But that whole argument I thought was petty. It was unnecessary, and they were arguing in the midst of the other women, so of course the other women would add their 2 cents. But when the other women added their 2 cents, that annoyed Tisha. And she was like, hello, I do not want any of you guys' input. This is just between me and Kimmy. But the whole conversation to me was I was just over it completely. Anyways, we're done with anything to do with Tisha. Now we're going over to Martel and Melody. So they have a picnic with the kids, and the children want them to be back together with the hopeful naivety that children have. They're just oblivious to the extremity and to the seriousness of the divorce. Melody wants the children to know who caused the demise of their marriage. And that is why she's exposed the children to certain things, including the song that she made about Martel. Although she tries to deny that that's what it is what it is, and we all see that. Martel doesn't want to have the kids involved because he wants to create this persona for his kids that he's the super dad, that he did nothing wrong. However, it appears as if Melody does not want the children to think that he's perfect. She wants the children to know that this man who you guys call dad is the reason for the breaking of this marriage. It's a little bit salty on Martel's part, on Melody's part. However, I do understand that she doesn't have to protect Martel because he did what he did, and sooner or later he'll have to answer for it to the kids. So they talk about the 47 acres. Martel backtracks and says, oh, the issue is not her building on the 47 acres, but she has no building experience, and essentially labels her as unqualified. But the irony of it all is that he's the one that is technically not disqualified, he's the one that is not qualified. Martel doesn't think that Mel's interest is in building right now. It perhaps hasn't been building, because technically, if we remember from previous seasons, I feel like Martel put a freeze on that 47-acre situation. I feel like that's what he does. He's been trying to scoop certain joint ventures from up under Melody, despite what he's trying to say or claim right now. That's what he's been trying to do. And she's been peeping that. And I feel like she has a right to address it, because I feel like it's shady on Martel's part. The same way he has to financially support his kids, Melody has to do the same. So I don't understand why he's being sneaky about certain things. Now, Tiffany and Louis have a celebration of their anniversary at a baseball park, and they play a bit of baseball. What I could see from the game is that Martel cannot hit a ball, and that's basically what I summed up from that baseball thing. I was just not really even interested in that aspect of it. Now they come back into the lounge and they're discussing certain things, and Melody goes, Martel seems this way because he's thinking about our anniversary that's coming up in July. And Martel is like, I wasn't even thinking about that. So I was really embarrassed for Melody in that regard, because she was being very presumptuous and kind of got embarrassed for her presumptuousness. Now, Destiny feels like the Scots want her. She feels like everything the Scots do is about her. I know she's like kind of being funny about it, but everything pertaining to the Scots is not about you, Destiny. Martel does not want to be loathed over, because after everything, you're like, oh, poor Martel, and this and that. Martel feels as if everybody keeps believing Melody and her side of things, and he's frustrated with that. And, he looked actually quite ridiculous, claiming that he's the one that divorced Melody. That doesn't even make any sense, because he mentioned divorce first. So because he mentioned it first, he's the one that divorced her. That makes no sense. That's not how that works. It's not about who said it first. It's about who implemented the action behind the words first. So who was the one who went to the lawyer's office first? Who was the one to plan the divorce first? According to you, Martel, Melody's the one that planned the divorce. So how could it be you that divorced her? That makes no sense. Now, to me, that was a very poor attempt at boosting your ego, and it failed miserably. It was a crash and it was a burn, So I called him a dummy, because what he's saying made no sense. And the more and more you see Mel and Martel apart, you come to understand that Martel is not that smart. He's really not that smart. He comes across as extremely dumb to me. Yes, he could do the practical aspect of building, but why is it that you haven't gotten your builder's license yet? But anyways, I digress. So Martel says that because the women and the men separate, and Martel says that in their regular lives they never turn up like this. In other words, when they're put or placed in front of a camera, they start to act, and they have to put on a show, and the show is Melody and Martel fight. So they do that, and that's what it was. So in a sense, it's kind of fake, because that's not what they do normally, but because they have an audience, they feel like they have to do the most. Martel, I said, always puts his butt in his mouth, talking about women shouldn't do stuff and men shouldn't do stuff. Maurice had to correct him, because Maurice was like, The world is not as equal as you want it to be, and that's just something you're gonna have to deal with. Because there's a lot of things women want to do that they probably physically or whatever it is, they cannot do it. And there's things that men want to do that they can't do. It's just the way of the world right now. And for Martel to come and say, oh, women should stay in their lanes and all types of stuff like that. The more he talks, the more you want to slap his head, his bald head. But anyways, you guys, that's pretty much what the episode was about. I feel like I covered pretty much everything. It wasn't a very eventful episode, hence why I didn't have much to say. Let me know what you guys think about this particular season, this particular episode. Are you guys tuning in to Love and Marriage Huntsville? Let me know, because it doesn't seem like you guys are too enthusiastic about watching this show this season. I understand that the shows are up and down. Like, some episodes are really good and some are really bad. This particular episode was one of the more boring episodes, so I do understand. But give my video a listen, you guys. A like and subscribe, and stay tuned for other reviews from the Ranting Shop. It does look as if next episode is gonna be an up episode, because we see Wanda fighting with Melody's mom. We see Martel's mom, which we normally don't see in arguments, arguing with Melody and arguing with Miss Destiny. So it's gonna be a juicy next episode, and I hope you guys are staying tuned. Bye.